All right, so the title for today, When Numbers Lie, and with a lot of these sessions, I like to just illustrate over this slide. If you guys are Edge Elite, which you guys are to be here, you have access to the third lesson, the third course, rather. In fact, let me bring this slide down, this URL. This is out of the third course, lesson 7. So course 3, lesson 7, titled Sizing Plan. It's been around a long time. And I encourage, it's not a very long video. Everybody in here has access to it. I encourage you to watch it. And especially the statistics that I talk about that you'd like to have in order to increase your size is one thing. That's more subjective, right? And you could add or subtract statistics you think are important. But this 1, 2, 3, effortless, some effort, lots of effort. Watch that, understand that, even if you've watched this video before. And again, this is under Edge Elite Course 3, Lesson 7. It's not a very long video. But the title I put in here, When Numbers Lie, is they're not telling us, just think of this pandemic here in 2020 where all the data could be massaged to come up with results to fit a narrative that they want to create or drive home. And numbers can be always massaged to get to an endpoint that you are comfortable with. So as people, what do we want? Our path of least resistance and our weakness is to get ourselves to feel good as possible, as quick as possible. We all want that proverbial pat on our own back. And so that's why we try to avoid being wrong and try to take quick winners to, lock in that feeling of being right. That's why we often, when we miss a move that goes from this X to this X, we try to sell it here to get it to go back down to this X so we could feel good again from missing this rally by catching this break, same distance. Hey, then you don't feel as bad for as long. And our minds try to get us to do that all the time. It always tries to get us to feel, if we feel bad, to feel better right away. And I've said this before. Some people choose, poor vehicles to get themselves feeling better, like drugs and alcohol. And other people, hold on a second. And other people are ignorant to how our minds put us on a leash. I think about this almost every time I walk at night. And that is, I picture people either walking their brains, which is their mind, or you got this brain that is, brain doesn't even have any arms, but it's walking you. How's that? That's you. That's Carl. But this is your brain, and it's got you on the leash. We usually go through life this way. When you risk money and you put trades on, you're even more inclined to let your mind walk you. So let's get back to this When Numbers Lie. Another title could be Grade Your Trade. I like that one because it rhymes. Grade your trade. You don't have to put in all kinds of time. That's up to you. But when you put on a trade and you just looked at the output, for instance, most people will look at what when they look at a trade? What's the first thing you look at when you look at your trade stats? Size of the winner or loser, right? So if you see a plus 15 tick and that's a lot for you, you would deem that to be a good trade. If you see a +2, you would think that is not as good as the one above it. If you see a -6, well, that's worse than the previous two. If you see a -2, that's better than the prior one. There's a lot of stuff that goes into where you came and what happened before you got to a +15, a +2, a -6, or a -2, right? So how could you find out when the numbers are lying? Maybe this 15 was just a lucky trade, man. and you got away with a couple bad decisions. And if you continue to trade and make those decisions, you're going to have some bad days and streaks. You don't know that. Maybe this -2 was better than the +2, because if you didn't get out for a -2, it would have been a -20 5 minutes later. And this +2 would have been a +20 5 minutes later. If you just looked at the output, the +2 is better than -2, isn't it? I would say 80% of people would agree if you just looked at that. But then if you looked inside that trade, and if the +2 would have been a +20 had you held on to it, and if the -2 would have been a -20 had you held on to it, this is a far better trade, because if you're consistent with making the decisions that got you out of this, you're going to cut your losers. If you're consistent in making the same decisions that kept you in this, or got you out of this and cut your winners short, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. So inside the trade, how do you, using simplicity, grade your trade so you can figure out what numbers are lying and which ones aren't? How could you grade your trade without spending hours on each friggin' trade or day, which some people overdo it? I can't say enough. If you're not reviewing your day, you're not serious about this. If you're reviewing your day way too long, you're too serious about this, and you're not going to have longevity. It's like a guy who works out. I'm going to start working out, and the whole week he worked out 2 hours a day, and he's sweating his ass. He's not going to keep doing that for 6 months. Who are we kidding? What kind of review is, practical, where that you could see yourself doing it in 1 month, 5 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever? And it's not spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on one day. It's just not every day. It's not going to happen. So if you're the type that's making 25, 35, 50 trades a day, it's going to be harder to review your day. Why? Because you got more to review. So you better have some really good results if you're making that many trades. You better be consistently pulling money out of the market, because there's a lot more to look at. And if you don't, you're taking too much risk, and it's impossible to review with any kind of quality that many trades a day. That's a lot of decisions, right? So I'm not telling people don't make that many trades a day, but boy, you better have some results behind it pretty quickly. Meaning this, because you're not going to be able to put eyes on all those trades efficiently. It's just not practical. You're going to review 25 trades. You'll be there. You're not going to want to do it. So going back to how many times throughout all these videos and programs have you heard me say sweet spot, right? Everything has a sweet spot, and you got to find it. And everybody's sweet spot might be a little bit different. But what's the sweet spot in the amount of time and what you review during the course of a day or a trade? So if you break down your review 2 ways, how much time do you spend reviewing the trade? How much time do you spend reviewing the day? And then maybe the week. And then when do you do it? If you wait to the end of the week to review, you're going to have a lot to review. It's like, are you going to wait to the end of the week to work out for the whole week? Like, I'm going to work out on Friday. I got to make up for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just going to be a harder day to work out, right? You got to spread it out. It's got to be part of your routine. It has to be part of your day. You can't. I always stress this when we talk about any kind of session that has to do with review. I always say that even though most people are agreeing with me right now, most people won't follow through with being better at review. And just because you do it doesn't mean you're doing it well. Maybe you are. I don't know. But the longer, if you wait till the end of the week to review your day, you got more to review, and you probably won't stick to it. Because it's not sexy, is it, to review your day? Is it fun, especially if you're not trading well? When they say when you're trading well, you review your day and it's, you got more energy to do it. But it's more important to review your day when you're not trading well, but yet that's when you got less energy to do it. It doesn't mean it's less important, though. It's even more important. So if you're making a lot of trades, it's always going to be difficult to review. If let's say you're making an average, let me ask you guys and pop it in the chat. On average, how many trades do you make? And I don't mean you buy 3 and sell 1, 1, 1, and that's 4 trades. No, how many times are you in and out roughly per day? How many trades do you make per day on average? Strip out outliers where you got maybe a lot on one particular day, but on average, how many trades you make. Pop that in the chat as I go through this. And then I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but I'll run through what everyone's average roughly amount of trades are. Because this has a lot to do also with when numbers lie. If you're not achieving, where you want to be, the answer generally isn't make more decisions, make more trades. So a lot of the answers come between around, I would say the average of the average is 5. So 3, 12, 8, 5 to 10, 8, 4 to 6, 10, 20 to 30. So a big one. 7. So I'm not here to tell anybody what's too many, because it's relative to that person and what they're trying to achieve. But the more you trade, the harder it's going to be to review. That doesn't make the review any less important, though, right? Well, he doesn't have to review. Why? Because he makes 100 trades a day. Okay. It's just harder, and you have to know that. And then the people that would say on a good day, they're trading, less, on a bad day, more. So you want to even have that red line to say, generally, if I trade more than X, I should just stop because I'm not going to get it back. We actually had a thing for a while on a prop firm. It wasn't the amount of trades, it was the amount of money. If you were down X, quit, because generally you get X plus if you keep trading, meaning your losses go the wrong way. But if you were within that acceptable loss, keep going. You'll get it back, or you have a better chance of getting it back. Again, that comes with discipline, and it comes with not telling me what you're going to do, but doing what you say you're going to do. When did I say that once before? It's not about doing what you say, it's at least not doing the opposite. Okay, I didn't work out today. Does that mean you had to eat the chocolate cake also? Because that's doing opposite. At least if you didn't work out, fine, you maybe ate well, but you did the opposite. I didn't work out and I ate 2 chocolate cakes and a vanilla malt. So getting back to when the numbers lie, grading the trade. In the video that I told you about, course 3, again, lesson 7, sizing plan, it's not so much in that video about the statistics that could get you to increase your size. That's subjective. It's grading your trade to see how much effort there is in each trade, 1, 2, or 3. If you've got a lot of 1s, you're picking great locations. If you got a lot of 3s, you got SHITTY locations. And by the way, these are winners. You're grading, you're focused on grading your winners, because everybody wants to run to looking at what they're doing wrong with losers. Hey, that's fine. There's some importance to paying attention to the losers, but a lot of people think winners are good. Winners are good. No, not always. If you're getting a lot of 3s, they're not good. So you want to grade your day. You want to grade your trade based on 1, 2, 3. I don't want to go and repeat the substance or the stuff, the substance in that video, because you guys can watch it. It's a short video. I think it's 11 minutes, but it goes through it and how you can go from the winner was easy, it was so, and it was a ball breaker, right? And you could use your own criteria for what 1, 2, or 3. The one thing I will recommend, though, don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't grade on 10. Well, it was about an 8. Just break it down, make it simple. You make it too hard to have a scale 1 to 10. So that's one way in watching that video where you could really distill down the quality or lack thereof of the winners. So you throw your winners into this filter, and is it still a good looking trade when it comes out of it or not? And this isn't a filter, it's a funnel. But you throw all your winners into the funnel, and just which ones turn out to be ones you'd like to keep, or which ones are lying to me and telling me that this was a 6-tick winner, but every time, I have a problem if you to distinguish a problem with cutting winners too short. But you have to know that. You can't let your mind put you on a leash and make you think, yeah, this week I cut a lot of winners, man. And you know, I had a lot of small winners and I cut them. But you also cut a lot of losers. And if you didn't cut the winners, you want to cut the losers and you'd be down even more. Don't let your mind just generally look at these numbers and let them lie to you, because your mind's not going to want to necessarily agree with grading the trade when you look at it objectively. Yeah, if you let a lot of +6 would have been a lot of, let's say, just say not just +6, but took small winners and it would have been bigger winners had you just left them on. But that same decision-making process made a lot of -2s would have been -20s. Maybe. I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example. But if you know you weren't cutting, you were doing good at cutting your losers, or you let your losers go and cut your winners, get to that conclusion. But you got to grade your trade. And then the simple stuff of here's another way to grade your trade. It's not just how you felt, 1, 2, 3, effort, or I'm sorry, no effort, some effort, a lot of effort. But another way to grade it is inside the trade. What's inside the trade? Not just how you felt, that's important, no doubt. But if you get in a trade right here and you get out of the trade right here, well, let me try this again. You get into a trade there and you get out of a trade here. And let's say this is a long trade. All right. So you're playing from the long side, you open up a long position. This is the end of the story. Hold on. Pelosi won't accept Republican aid offer, I guess. Just drop down the wire. This isn't, I shouldn't say that's the end of the story. This isn't even the end of the story when you close the position, right? That's almost the end. But there's overtime, which means what did the price do after you got out? So this is the beginning of you getting in. This is kind of sort of the end, but there's also, does it keep going up? Does it go back down? Does it go sideways after you get out? Remember, it's a long trade. But what happens in between getting in, which is in here, and getting out, which is over here? What happens? That's the story. Chapter 1, it went my way, but didn't fill me. Chapter 2, son of a bitch came down and went through it, but I didn't get stopped out. Chapter 3, got my first 2 exits. Chapter 4, came back down, didn't want to take a loser, so I scratched the balance. What do they call the end of the book? Like the preface is the beginning. What's the end called? Like when they have the ending to the last chapter. Is there epilogue? That's what I was thinking of. How do you pronounce that, Ed? Epilogue? Just say close. That's close enough. Come on. I would have guessed that. I almost said it, but I didn't want to say it. But that's this part. That's after the trade. So, chapter 1, it goes my way, doesn't fill first target. Son of a bitch comes back against me. I don't get stopped out. Chapter 3, I get my first 2 targets. Chapter 4, I don't want to take a loser on the last third, so I get out. Epilogue. Bam! Damn it. Should have stayed in it. That doesn't mean the trade was good, bad, or okay necessarily, but you just now broke the trade apart a little bit. So now you start to collect the real data and you put the pieces together on, hey, this happens all the time to me. Well, then if that's the case, then you have a better expectation. You're not surprised as the story is being read back to you, right? It's the I've seen this movie before. So you could be a little less emotional. Maybe this is a story that has a lot of twists and turns, but maybe some of your trades don't have those many twists and turns. The beginning of it, and let's just play it from the long side. The beginning of it And the preface could be something you add to the trade, not something you add to the trade, something you better add to the trade. The preface is the ready aim portion of the fire. Ready aim fire. So the preface of the book is what got you bullish, what got you to sit up in your chair to play from the long side. You could do a verbal journal for that. And then your trade starts here, and your story was up, up, and away right away. And you're getting a lot of, this would be a number one, very few tests. Who wants to be tested a lot? And the test in trading is your entry comes back down, comes back down. That's a lot of tests. Chances are you're going to say, screw it. It's just harder to be in a class where you got to take a lot of tests. That's all. But the point of the matter is, what's when you dig into your trade? Now, this seems like a lot of work. And it is if you're not willing to do some of it, right? If you're not willing to do review, then yeah, it's a lot of work. If you're not willing to work out, then just a little workout's a lot. If you're willing to work out and you work out for 20, 30 minutes, that's not a lot. It's really not a lot. And if you create a routine and a process where you run through this pretty quickly, because those that use a verbal journal could just talk about what you were thinking, bearish opinion, bullish opinion with a certain color. Then after you get in the trade, you go back and talk about what you did. I got in here, I got out there. The trade went, and this is another inside the trade. The trade went 20 ticks my way and didn't take any profit. Do you get a lot of those, right? What's the high and what's the drawdown? It looks great that it went 20 ticks your way, but the son of a gun went 40 against you. Trade looks like, oh, look at this. I got out right at my high. I was 15 tick winner. Yeah, but you didn't tell the whole story of taking 40 ticks of heat and have the market look like this, and you just got lucky and took a 15 tick winner. Again, what did the trade do from the time that you thought of getting into it, the preface, got into it, got out of it, which is your exit, to the epilogue, which is between the end of the story and the end of the book? What did it do after you took your exits? Doesn't have to be as much work as you think. But if it's coming from zero work, then it's always going to seem like it's more work. In fact, maybe some should be trading less and using that time to review what you did trade. Very few people could be involved as much as more than 15 a day, especially if you're only trading a few hours a day. If you're trading all day, it's different, but most people aren't going to trade well that are in here if you're making a lot of trades. On average, if you're making 20, 30 trades a day, most people in here aren't going to do well with that frequency of trade every single day. Knowing from what I know from the last, 7 or 8 years helping people, very few people can make 25, 30 trades a day, every day, and have enough to show for it for the risk that they're taking. So tell the story. When the numbers lie, you'll be able to call them out if you get and dig inside the trade a little bit without having to be too cute, too scientific. And then you have colors to grade them, and now you're a little bit more organized. And the whole thing about organization, the work is getting organized. Staying organized a little easier, but the whole effort of being organized is a lot less work than not being organized. People always look at the work of getting organized, but they don't look at the amount of extra work of not being organized is, right? And that's why I always tell people, I don't care how dirty your office is, your desk better be clean. You should have a clean workstation. When I say dirty, I don't mean dusty. I just, whatever. But your workstation, at the very least, should be clean. Now, any questions about how you can get a little bit better? And I think that's the takeaway of this meeting. Remember, these meetings are, I come into a conference room, if we all worked in the same office, and I come in and I say, hey guys, I've been thinking about this and I thought about putting this meeting together about how when numbers lie and how to maybe get people to grade their trades and dig into it a little bit better without a ton of effort. And then we have that meeting, right? And that's what this is. And then we go, what could you do a little bit more? Not where you turn into the greatest trade journaler of all time, but you do a little bit more than you did prior to this session. That's it, just a little bit more, right? Maybe you change something, add something, but it's a little different. Just like how do you take your slice out? It's just a slight adjustment. You don't have to reinvent a wheel to be the all-time best trade reviewer of all time. But hopefully this session is helpful. I think that obviously this is the least sexiest part of trading, and that's the review side of it. It would be nice if you had someone, think about this, if you had someone, and I think that running your trades through some sort of filter to kick out all these stats, again, you're going to be stuck with, are they lying? Or when are they lying? You're going to have to get into it and remember how you felt through each one. That has to be part of it. And just filtering numbers doesn't tell you why, and often tells you doesn't. That's only the stuff you did, right? You can't take data that doesn't exist and analyze it if it doesn't exist. So the trades you take, okay, you can analyze those. How about the trades you didn't take? How about the thoughts you had? That's not analyzed in any kind of statistical filter. How do you run stats on bearish or bullish thoughts you had, and where did that happen on a chart? So that's all part of your process. But then the review, all that stuff is not the sexiest part of trading, but it adds to the sexiest part of trading. That's the outcome that you're trying to achieve and trying to maintain. And I think that in any job, you don't need it to be effortless all the time, but you have to have some periods of effortlessness where you're getting it and you're exhaling. So probably next week, we'll talk a little bit more about adding the group, or adding a little more to the group of edge trading group. And like I said, minor changes. Some people could look at this and say it gives you the motivation to totally jump in and review better, and that's great. But nonetheless, grade your trade, get into it, try to see which numbers are lying, try to understand what's going on in the middle of the trade, see if you're cutting winners, see if you're cutting your losers. One's good, one isn't. See if you're doing it a lot. It's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do a lot. How do you know if you're doing something a lot unless you go back and look at it? Because your mind's not going to help you remember it. Your mind's always going to get you on the path of making yourself feel better. That's it. And it's a bad drug. You're going to have some stats and a workout buddy to say you didn't work. Hey, I worked out an hour today. BS. You were talking for 45 minutes, but your mind made you think you worked out. That's why you take the next day off, because you worked out an hour yesterday. Well, number one, you didn't work out an hour yesterday. And so you're doing doubly worse taking the day off today. It's the truth. The mind, when it controls you, is not very that's why there's so much irrational behavior. It's because it's the mind making the decisions. It's tough for you to get your head around that, no pun intended, but that's the point. Irrational behavior comes from you're not controlling your thoughts. Your thoughts are just controlling you, period. And they're running you around in a trade, out of a trade, in between the day. I didn't trade that bad. I traded terrible. Maybe one day you thought you traded bad, you traded awesome. So now you're on the wrong path, thinking you're on the right path, and vice versa. Now, Dave, don't turn it political. All politicians are irrational at times. but they're servants. They're public servants. Thank you. I like when I hear thank you for your service. All right, enough about that. So get in, do a little bit more than you did before. Grade that son of a gun, and see what you're doing a lot of. And 1 2 3 1 2 3 effortless, some effort, lots of effort. You're winners. And watch that video because I talk more about it. Look at just winners and say easy. Okay. That was a ball breaker. Because if you got a lot of threes, you're probably setting yourself up for giving back some money. Because sometimes a lot of threes in your win category is you just got away with one. Sometimes you had a winner because your location was crappy, but a news event came out and sent it up. Oh, that's fine. That's, just make sure you didn't say, hey, this was an awesome location. Maybe it was, but the trade worked because maybe the, story broke at the same time you were along. I mean, I'll take that every day of the week. I'd love a bullish story to break every time I'm long. So I hope this week helped. We'll see everybody tomorrow in the room if you're also in the room. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday. I tentatively have let me stop the recording because this isn't really relevant to people who watch it on recording.